Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Submission Radio Morning After Live. I'm Dennis Shkaradov. I'm feeling good because there are things happening in the sport. Thanks for joining me here on the program. I'm excited about this lineup. And man, I'll tell you something. These guys that got on the show, they are ready to rock because not only they're on the show, but there's other things happening with them that we'll discuss this week, which are exciting. Before I get to them, though, just a quick reminder. Super chats, get to the front of the queue. Please remember to become a Submission Radio member. It helps out the show a lot. And don't forget to share, subscribe, and do all that stuff. Every little bit helps. So there is a lot to discuss. Let me introduce my guests. It's been a minute since I've had these guys together, but I feel like it's like an Avengers MMA media type thing whenever I get them together. First things first, this man is back from vacation. He went camping. Jose Youngs, how do you read comic books while you camp, man? Do you bring a little light with you, or how does that work?
I have a Kindle now, a Kindle Color, so I can like load up a lot of books that I don't particularly want to buy and physically have, but I still want to read. So I made do. It was easy peasy.
I love that. Of course, from MMA Fighting, one of the best websites out there. Another amazing website, MMA Junkie, and this man always kills it as well. Join me here on the program. Mike Bohn, you beat me in a prop quiz, but now you're all the way to the end. So I feel vindicated and good about that.
That's how I felt when I did the first time and I lost to Jose in the first round. So there you go. Now you know how I feel. If history shows, you will be in the finals of the next tournament and actually win it. So there you go.
That's true.
Dude, I'm so bad at that show. God bless you guys for making it to the end. That is an acquired skill. Jose, every time we go out drinking, you're always just playing prop quiz by yourself. So I feel like you finally have an outlet that you can capitalize on. It's like the RAF.
Apology and Sherdog. He sits in the corner.
It's literally like I'm good at one thing, and it's bad MMA knowledge.
Oh, come on. You always bring up bad baseball knowledge as well.
That's true. I have a lot of useless information floating around.
I'm just like, they don't even play baseball in this country, Jose. Stop. All right. We do, but it's very low level. All right, guys, there are things happening in the world of MMA, and there's a lot for us to discuss. We're on the heels of UFC London, of course, and the big main event where Movsar was able to pick up the win over Lerone Murphy, and a little bit of controversy, right? Like, people had this thing scored a little funny. Here's a little screenshot here from some of the ways that media scored this one. I took this pretty quick, so I don't know if you guys are on this just yet, but as you can see, a lot of draws, a lot of people thinking Murphy won. Jose, I'm going to go to you first. How did you have this main event scored?
I had it a draw the first time I watched it, watching it live, but I was also doing like other things like writing and doing social stuff. And then I rewatched it after seeing all the dialogue on the internet, and I didn't have the commentary on, especially Michael Bisping. That wasn't ideal this past weekend.
We'll have to talk about that later.
And then I again scored it a draw. I don't know how you can score it for Lerone with the I don't know how you could score it with Lerone. I will listen to your argument that Movsar won, but with the point deduction, I just think it was very clearly 3-2 for Movsar, and with the scoring, it would be a draw.
Yeah, like Mike, I saw people say, well, look, like Movsar's striking was a little bit more devastating, or this or that. But do you see a way? Like, explain the card, explain the results to me, Mike. Like, does this card, the way that it got played out in the end, does it make any sense? The score?
It makes a little bit of sense, but it was close. I mean, I think it came down to that round 1 and round 3, right?
Yeah.
Those were the ones that kind of determined it. And watching it live, like, I did think, even though we were all kind of waiting for the takedown from Movsar in that first and second round, especially the first, like what he was doing with the striking was pretty solid. And I was like, did he just win that round? But I was like, nah, they're not going to give it to him. Maybe it's not enough. And 2 of the judges gave it to him. So like that kind of ultimately is what did make the difference. I did think it was like at the end, I thought Murphy was going to get it. I thought it was going to be kind of close on that sense, maybe a draw. But I was a little surprised that Movsar got it, even though looking back now and going through the rounds, I'm like, okay, it makes sense. It's not as, bad as maybe it seemed in the moment. And I didn't even think it was that bad. I was just a little bit surprised with how the fight played out. But I think we were all just a little bit of a shock with the way Movsar fought that fight and was like, okay, like, is he actually winning these striking exchanges? And he did pretty good. Lerone's face was busted up at the end of that fight.
Yeah, so Mike, break that down for me. As you're watching that, I had the same reaction. I'm sure Jose did too, where you're like, all right, well, this is risky. As you're watching it live, you're right. You're like, a couple of rounds have gone by. You're getting in that territory where you have to finish him. Then the point deduction gets taken away. What was your reaction to this K1 Dan Henderson version of Movsar that we saw in London?
I mean, I liked it. He said that's what he was going to do. And he's a complete fighter. He's not just that guy. Like, he showed us some stuff. We know a little bit more about him. I think he's got a pretty solid chin too. Like, Lerone did land some good cracks in there and he never seemed phased or even slightly rocked. So I like knowing that, I guess. And it makes me more confident that if someone is able to stop his takedowns when he's truly, truly trying for them, that maybe he can hang there. And I think he's only getting better. Like, I don't know how true it is what they were saying on the commentary that like Mike Brown told Bisping or Felder, whoever it was, that like Movsar had just started training spinning techniques a few weeks ago and then was already trying them in training and then now trying them in the fight. Like, if all that's true, that's a good sign for his development. He's had a lot of time off, obviously, so I would hope he's better than the one we've had before, the version we've seen before. So, yeah, I mean, it said something to us. And in the end, he got the win. And if he was going to go to a decision, this was better than if he had got, 4 minutes of control time in those first 3 rounds and won them that way.
Yeah, Jose, when I was watching him grapple, even when he got Murphy down, I always got this feeling that Movsar didn't really want to keep it on the ground for long. Like, Murphy did a great job of getting up.
For sure.
But it also looked like Movsar wasn't really, committing to staying on the ground. It looked like he wanted him to come back up and he was trying to prove a point here.
Yeah, there were moments in there when Movsar took him down, especially like later in the fight, where he took him down and I was like, that was so easy. And he was doing things so easily. Like he would go steps 1 to 5, but he would just skip 2 and 3, get to 4 and then just stop. And then Murphy would get up. I'm like, you could probably just like smother this man for 25 minutes. Lerone very clearly did his homework because he had a lot of great scrambles, a lot of get ups. He clearly just worked on that a lot. But when Movsar tried to wrestle, it seemed so easy and he just didn't want to do it. Yeah, weird fight. He probably could have, I don't know if he would have finished him, but that could have been a much clearer winner if he had actually tried to wrestle.
It was crazy. Like, watching it didn't really feel like he was ever out of like first or second gear, right?
Way.
Like in the first round when he's striking, he's like, okay, I'm just gonna try this a little bit, and like it's working out fine.
Even
after the point deduction happened, he was like, F this, like, okay, like I might actually have just screwed this up. Let's try now. And then that 5th round, he looked great. And I don't know how much, Lerone's pop tip or whatever impacted that 5th round. It did seem like he was struggling a bit there, but even still, like, it did feel like Movsar that 5th round was like, okay, like, I'm going to show you what's up. And if he had done that from the outset, you wonder how this fight looks too.
And I don't know which coach said it, but like it was going into round 5. It was like the corner cam and his coach was just like, stop, like just go, like stop saving the energy now. Like you don't have to, you don't have to save the energy anymore. So clearly something was up. I don't know if he was nervous about, because he did an interview with us and he had to pull out of his fight against Pico because he was just constantly getting winded. Maybe that was in the back of his mind. He didn't want to like exhaust himself, but yeah, that 5th round felt like the Movsar we thought was going to show up.
Yeah, it looked like he wanted to prove to himself that he could go all 5 rounds. He said something similar to me, like after the COVID thing, he wasn't sure if he was going to keep fighting, and it was hard for him to get in the gym and keep moving. Mike, this version that you saw of Movsar that was just kind of testing things looked pretty good in so many different areas. How much of a chance would you give him against Alex Volkanovski today?
Pretty good, I think. I mean, again, if you're out there and able to, I'm just going to test out the striking in this fight, I'm going to throw these spinning techniques I've never thrown in the fight, and you're doing this against undefeated Lerone Murphy, and we're all sitting here saying after the fight, like, was he even trying that hard? Like all the stuff we just said, like, that makes me think this guy is really, really freaking good. So I would give him a great chance. I mean, he can scramble with Volk. If he can actually keep Volk down for prolonged periods of time, which even the likes of Islam Makhachev was unable to do for the most part, like that's a very, very compelling fight. It's hard not to sit here, as we'll get into, I'm sure, and feel like this guy didn't leave the door open a little bit, because as I put in my post-event facts things that just ran on MMA Junkie this morning, I think only like 8 people have ever got to 10-0 in the UFC. None of them have ever done it with 10 decision wins. Like everyone's at least had 1 or 2 finishes in there, and it's just what it is, and it's going to be the thing that holds him back and has held him back.
Yeah, Jose. I mean, here's a comment here from our friend Lazy Bear MMA, Just Bleed Radio. He says was the biggest winner of all this actually Jean Silva. Obviously, a great video on social media where on MMA Fighting I saw someone captured Silva actually handing a contract to Hunter Campbell during this thing. He flew over there. He's been trying to promote himself, put himself in position here to steal this shot. And then, even though Dana White said that Movsar is in a potentially great spot or whatever to have this title shot, he also sounded pretty optimistic about Silva's chances as well when asked about the contract situation and Hunter Campbell. Jose, do you think there's a chance Silva can actually steal this thing and actually get the title shot here?
I mean, for sure, because everyone keeps saying, "Oh, Volkanovski's wants to fight Movsar." Like, I'm sure you guys all saw. Like, and I thought it was great, great production post fight where they had Volkanovski on standby to give his immediate reaction. Amazing work, Paramount. But he was saying the same thing when Lerone knocked out Pico. He was like, "See you in December," and then he ended up fighting Diego Lopez in February. So, like, I don't think it particularly matters that Volkanovski wants to fight him. I'm sure he'll like get in his ear. I don't think they want another situation where like, and it's obviously 2 completely different weight classes. One of them is incredibly shallow and one of them is incredibly exciting. When Ankalaev went on that big tear and he was just winning. At some point, the UFC just like, there's nothing else. Just give him the title fight. And then he beat Pereira. I don't think they want that to happen with Movsar and Volkanovski, because then you got to set up another rematch with Movsar. So he deserves it, but there is without question there's a very realistic world where Jean Silva skips the queue. And then I'm sure you guys all saw the post on Threads today where Arman Tsarukyan was saying, like, do I have to go save the featherweight division? So how are you not going to consider that too? Like, Movsar is great. He's an awesome fighter. I want to see him fight Volkanovski. Volkanovski wants to fight him, but for whatever reason, the UFC hates him. And there's a world where he lost to Arnold Allen. He lost to Aljamain Sterling. He lost to Lerone Murphy. Like, these are all very close fights that I will listen to your argument that he lost all of those. So maybe they just throw him out to Volkanovski so he can knock him off and they never have to deal with him again. I don't know if they want to risk that, but if John Silva got the title fight, none of us would be surprised at all.
We'll talk about Arman in just a sec, but Mike, does Silva bring, even though obviously Movsar deserves it, does Silva bring a certain level of excitement to this fight? Because we know Volkanovski can take him down to the ground and probably dominate him, but there's going to be that little moment there, like with Lopez initially, where you're like, well, can he actually land on Volk and put him out?
Sure. Yes, but how many times are we going to do that? Like, that was the argument for giving Diego Lopez the rematch, and Volk completely shut him down. And I wouldn't be surprised if, Jean Silva is always dangerous, but Volk is so freaking good and he knows this game so well. I could see it being the same thing, 50-45, 49-46 type of decision, where even if it's a mostly striking fight, Volk is just on that bike, he's jabbing, and just nothing super eventful happens over the course of 25 minutes. And then it's like, okay, well, we just screwed Movsar again. At least for the Movsar fight, like, it brings something different. It's a curious build. I think Volk really wants that undefeated record on his resume and be the first one to beat him. And I think he would maybe even consider retiring after that moment. I think he said that prior to the Lopez fight. So I don't know. Give the champ what he wants. Give the deserving guy what he deserves. Like, freaking 20-0, man. Like, what are we doing here? Give the guy the chance. Jean Silva's on a 1-fight winning streak.
He wanted to fight Murphy in December, and then he could have fought Murphy and probably Movsar by this point. But the UFC is just kind of figuring things out as they go. People joking about how it's going to be a third Lopez fight after the White House.
Got to get by Steve Garcia first, baby.
Yeah, I know. That's going to be an interesting one. Well, you brought it up, Jose. Arman Tsarukyan saying he's next. MMA fighting graphic right there, and having a little bit of fun with the division. Not the first time we've seen him, sort of suggest that he should be fighting for that belt. How much of this is him trolling? How much of this is him actually trying to sneak in the back door here, knowing that his lightweight title might take a while to get to?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because Arman doesn't seem like the biggest lightweight, but he's a wide dude. I feel like that cut would be hellacious for him. He doesn't seem to have a lot of body fat on him when he makes 155. I would be interested in him fighting for the featherweight title if he can prove he can make it. What I don't want is another like TJ Dillashaw situation where he cuts down to 125 and then just absolutely gets dusted in the first round because his body is just so depleted. I don't want to see that. If Arman proves he can make it, awesome. Sign me up. I don't think he should skip the queue. This is probably also just him talking because Dana White is, I mean, Mike was there sitting next to me. Like Dana White said, like, he's not the biggest fan of Arman at the moment after all the nonsense happening. And he has another wrestling thing coming up anyway in Tampa, Florida. So do I want to see it? Sort of, but I don't think it'll happen.
How do you feel about it, Mike?
Yeah, it just doesn't seem realistic. Like, say, best case scenario, they're like, let's do it. We're going to give Arman the shot right off the bat. Let's do him and Volk. Like, when's that fight happening? July, August, September at the very latest. Can Arman even make 45 by then? Dude's eating and traveling in every single place. Like, I wonder what he weighs right now. Well, I guess we'll find out at the weigh-in on Friday for RFA or whatever day that is. But yeah, it just doesn't seem plausible given the timing. And I'm sure the last thing Volk wants to do is sit around waiting for someone else to do that. Like, the guy is there. Movsar didn't take crazy damage as far as we know. Like, just give us the fight that makes sense. And if you want to do something wacky after that, then go for it, I guess. I guess back to the John Silva thing too. I guess I could see a world where he fights Volk next. And if Volk wins, maybe Movsar fights for the title at the end of the year in like Abu Dhabi or something. So maybe Movsar isn't next to fight for the title, but maybe his next fight is for a title type of thing.
Yeah, good point. Like the Dreekid situation.
The thing with Volkanovski is he's super active. I think he'd fight on every single card if he could. So if he fought Silva and probably dominates him like a lot of us think he will, who knows, maybe he'll be ready to go again. But then you never know, because after that first Lopez fight, he couldn't see out of his eye for ages, right? So you don't know how long you'll be out for. He's a little bit older. Yeah, you wouldn't want to see Arman, though, become the champion in that division and then have to leave the division. Like, we can't have another champion win a belt and vacate that division.
And what's are we saying because Arman's like so much more exciting than Movsar? Obviously, his track record's a little bit better, or is it just purely because he is suddenly now popular?
I think it's a popularity contest.
It's a popularity contest, man. I don't know how it is for you guys, but whenever we use Arman content, it does very well. Like, he's on that like short list of fighters that even if they don't have the belt, they will generate conversation.
Yep. Tell you what generated conversation as well. That's MVP. He had a little bit of a rough fight. This is what Joe Rogan had to say about it. This might be the least action of any fight ever next to Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou. Mike Bohn, MVP, copping a bit of hate online for that fight. The crowd wasn't loving it either. By the way, MVP said that, and this is MMA Junkie graphic, it's frustrating. It's not the kind of win I wanted. It's getting more and more difficult because nobody wants to engage. So, Mike, how much of a point does MVP have? How much of this is on him? Where do you stand on this fight and the way that his fights have kind of been playing out in the UFC?
Yeah. It's a tough one because I feel like we've had this conversation so many times over the years, and it used to be like you could appreciate the chess match and like the tactics of what MVP was doing, his bizarre style, his stance and all that. This one feels kind of irredeemable. Like I feel like you're reaching if you're going into that argument to be like, oh, it was, just tactical. Like, this was a bad fight. You can't really cut it many other ways. 39 combined significant strikes over 15 minutes. Like, and MVP he felt, watching him, I was like, he looks kind of old for like the first time. He was still doing his thing. He's had some of the speed, but like just his body looked a little different, and just the way he was approaching it seemed the traits of an older fighter. And maybe that was something that was lingering in his mind and he didn't want to overcommit to something. Maybe it truly was just the training relationship of him and Sam Patterson led to that type of fight. You can be critical of that. I know Joe Rogan was saying this kind of falls on the matchmakers as well, but yeah, like it's hard. And I like MVP. He's a great guy, but this one was just a stinker. And yeah, like I don't know how you come out there trying to justify this as anything but a bad fight. And it's very curious, just given his comments coming into the fight, the walkout song and all that stuff. It makes it more interesting. If none of that was going on, I wonder how we're talking about this.
If I was matchmaking him at this point and I'm in the UFC, like I'm throwing him in there with like Gilbert Burns, or I'm getting like Michael Chandler to move up to welterweight. Like I'm getting guys that I know are just going to run at him to either create an exciting fight or, take him out basically. Jose, Dana White wasn't the biggest fan of this fight. Apparently walked out when it was happening, didn't have anything positive to say afterwards for it. And obviously MVP comes with a high price tag. What do you think his future is? Do you think the UFC actually keeps him around, or is this like a Netflix kind of Jake Paul MVP goes to MVP type situation?
How many fights has he had? This is his fourth fight? 5 fights? I don't know what his contract situation is, but yeah, you're right. He probably has a very lofty and heavy price tag. I hope he sticks around the UFC. I feel like we've been begging for him to fight a high caliber fighter for so long. I still want to see him fight like a lot of the guys in the UFC welterweight division. Like so far, he's fought a lot of younger guys and then guys in middleweight. That is cool. Like go do your side things, but I still want to see him fight Leon. I don't care if it's in London or not. I want to see him fight Leon. I want to see him fight Pratis. I want to see him fight Morales. Like these are all sick fights that he just had a bad dance partner that seemed to not want to engage. And I agree with Joe. That's on the matchmakers. Like even Dana said when Ian just out grappled him for 15 minutes, Dana was like, yeah, Mick and Sean said that was going to happen. And then we made the fight and that's exactly what happened. So like, what's coming. And this is not the worst fight of all time. Was it a bad fight? It was a terrible fight. But like Anderson Silva's probably had 2 of the 5 worst fights in UFC history. And he's probably the most exciting fighter ever. Like, is it worse than Rose versus Carla 2? No, that fight was bad.
I was there for that. That was
that was bad. Was it bad? Worse than Dan Severn, Ken Shamrock 2? No, they didn't throw any punches. So I feel like MVP could go out there and have a crazy performance, and we're right back to talking about how sick you were. This is just bad dance partner, bad fight. I 100% agree with Mike said. Like you can't say all that stuff at the beginning and then just lay an egg in there. Like it's just kind of a perfect storm of nonsense that happened in London.
Yeah. And is this like sorry to interrupt, is this like a selling point even? Like you mentioned off the top, like MVP to MVP based on what? Like what you're wanting to buy this? Like this isn't how you sell your product, So like
is there a
were to be released, I trust he has good management, but like I would more expect him to show up in misfits than MVP.
Yeah, for sure. Like who would he fight in MMA? Who's like a big name welterweight out there that like we want to see MVP fight?
Yeah, no, it'd be there'd be what that rumored fight is, like Lorenz Larkin, that type of dude who's in his 40s and has just been around forever as well. Like there's nothing that's adding to MVP's career. There's still a lot he can do. He can turn this around in the UFC off one moment, as he said.
100%.
Did you know it would be a really strange fight if he goes to MVP and fought Nate Diaz? Could you imagine what that would look like? Just Nate pointing at him the whole time and him just moving around like this the whole time. That would be hilarious. Jose, you said you want to see him fight some elite welterweights in the UFC. Here's the welterweight rankings right here. Can you pick out a name here that you think would actually make?
I mean, Udos Medic is knocking fools out all the time. MVP Udos Medic, like that's not a fight I'd ever thought of till right this second. That's a fun scrap. The Bohn fight is fun. Given the winner of Buckley and Brady, I know even MVP had been talking about fighting Buckley during this long layoff. I want to see him fight the Moraleses and the Prates of the world, but I can't imagine the UFC will ever give him that.
It's too high up right now.
The Bilal is fighting Bohn, right? Am I making that up? Yeah.
So I could see him fighting like the loser of JDM and Practice.
100.
Oh yeah,
great.
That's something.
Love that. That's a great fight. Let's do that.
Yeah, that's something.
When is that? That's in May.
May 2nd. Yeah, so coming up soon.
Love it.
It's going to be a great fight. You guys aren't there for that one, are you?
No, unfortunately not.
Nope.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to get up there. Yeah, that's a great fight. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him next, and if the UFC keeps him around, and what happens there. By the way, like
keep him around. I think Dana could have been a lot harsher at that post-fight press.
I agree.
If he wanted to be.
It's not like he watched it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And he said, he won, and that's good. And yeah, so.
What about Amosov? Wasn't that fight supposed to happen? That would be such a brutal fight too. That could be such a brutal
fight. Can we give MVP fun fights?
Yeah, right. I agree.
By the way, she loves the gloves. Shout out says, "Oh my god, that presser! What about that presser yesterday? Is this one of the weirdest Dana White press conferences we've ever seen?" So he had a translator. People speak English. Obviously, English originated from this part of the world. Has
Famously.
a translator for people speaking English. And that last question, where the guy was asking, no shade on the guy. Like, I get it. You want to get into the room and just ask a question, but it was like a useless question that didn't need to be asked. The translator translates it wrong. Dana White doesn't understand it. The guy re-asks it. The translator translates it again. Then the guy asking it is correcting the translator because the translator's not getting it right. Then Dana White flips out and is like, "This is why I don't do last questions. What are you asking? Do I like English fighters? Do I like blah, blah, blah?" They're great. They're great. Like, it was just... Also, someone got a job, like a boxing and like a media member, I guess, as a boxing announcer, and also got a job.
God,
I was like, what is happening in the media room these days? It's the Wild West, but in a bad way, right? Like,
I have been to a million media rooms, a million. Covering boxing or MMA in the UK is such another beast of nonsense. Like, it's like they all stand and applaud for every fighter. Everyone's asking for jobs. Everyone's taking photos with fighters. Half of them have they're it's like Mike, you were there in the London one, I think, when that one guy was like, "Dana, I can be your matchmaker for Power Slap UK." I'm like, what are we talking about? And then like one guy started asking Arnold Allen questions before Arnold Allen even sat down. And then I remember that they were just asking bullshit. And then Mike goes, "Since we can ask whatever we want," and then he just started asking stuff. God, the UK media. And then I was texting our friend Lee, and he's like, "Are you watching?" I go, "How is it?" And he just goes, "It's shit. It's some shit."
Yeah.
Not
too much more to add. It was a rough one. I think I thought the same thing. And yeah, the Dana White translator situation did not help at all.
How did it take? Like, the first question, how did you score the main event? Took like 15 minutes to get to.
Yeah, the first question was, what do you think of John Jones's Twitter rant? And yeah, that again, I'm not trying to criticize any media or anything like that. Usually there would be either Oscar, Jose, or myself or someone of that ilk there to kick these things off. But my advice to other reporters, younger reporters, would be, study those a little bit. And there is an art to the build up and the workflow and, getting some event related questions off the bat first before you dive into that. Because usually getting Dana warmed up provides a better answer than just that right off the bat and being like, "I've answered this a million times. This is what we're starting with," not the very lackluster card we just put on.
Dude. And then like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, anyone ask about Ronda's tweets. Anybody. And then I think someone told me that someone was trying to ask, but then
Tristango was trying to go down the MVP road, and that's that weird ventriloquist moment where like he thought it was coming out of someone else's voice, and then they pulled him before he got to it, I think.
What a nightmare.
I feel like people criticize the media room sometimes, but I think like it just shows the importance of like when you guys are in there, what you do and what happens. Like you, Oscar, like you said, there's a process to it. You got to get Dana warmed up. At one point, they asked about Nate Diaz. I'm like, here we go, blah blah blah. But then Dana, if you're inexperienced, it's very intimidating. And, and then people started asking questions at the same time. It was a mess, man. Let me just say. Also, a little bit of criticism, and you mentioned it earlier, Jose, was Michael Bisping's commentary. I keep getting messages about, but by the way, we love Michael Bisping.
Great
guy.
Cool
Dude. And when he was a fighter, he took whatever fight he got and he made it an interesting experience for the media. But getting a lot of criticism for his commentary duties over at London. Mike, I'll go with you first. Do you feel like some of these comments are warranted? Are you surprised at how many people were sort of rubbed the wrong way by Michael's work just this past weekend?
No, I'm never surprised when there's backlash over commentary. This wasn't his best night. I guess being like the defendant of him, maybe, you just get a little too much into the British English vibe. They're giving you video packages and celebrating you in front of the crowd and all that stuff. And you got a few big moments from the British fighters. Maybe he was just like got into that zone and didn't even realize he was getting into it. And it was just like it comes off kind of in poor taste to some person looking for objective commentary. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of to be expected. We see traits of this a lot on UFC commentary, whether it's a training partner or former opponent or, friend or something competing. It's it just is what it is in the UFC. Maybe I know they want Bisping there to call it because it makes sense to have him calling the UK card.
100%.
But yeah, I don't really know what the workaround is for it is. I guess the best thing I can say is I think he just announced he signed a 5-year extension, so he'll have plenty of time to work on his game.
I feel like a part of it was they were trying to make it feel like one of those crazy London cards where the crowd was going crazy and blah, 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 blah. And I feel like Bisping kind of went too much into that, trying to oversell situations and make it too much about that. I don't know, Jose. Like, just felt like he was a little bit off on this one.
Yeah, and Mike is... I'm not hung up on a lot of the commentators every single match, like every single fight, like a lot of people are. Like there are for sure people that like when Dom or Felder, whoever calls a fight, it's like instantly ruined for them. Like I'm not that. No. It just wasn't Mike's best day at the office. It was driving me nuts when during the main event, he's like, he was basically crediting Lerone for why Movsar wasn't wrestling. I'm like, I don't like that. I don't think that's accurate, Mike, but like, I digress. It's just it wasn't. And like you said, he's trying to hype up the crowd, being really hyped. That felt like it was landing flat. I also don't know what was in his ear because for those like, there's always the little thing in your ear with like the producer talking to you. Don't know what was being said to him, but it was just not his best work. Mike's been great. I think Mike does a decent job in the post-fight interviews in the octagon. At least he tries to pull something from someone. I think Felder is the best at that. But I think Mike, I don't know. I think Mike Bohn said everything accurately. It just wasn't his best day at the office.
What was up with the random video packages? She Loves the Gloves brings this up. A few people said this. When they played his video package, I had to remind myself he was already in the Hall of Fame. Like, I felt like they were announcing it or something, and then he's just like, And I get it, like, in arena, right? That's one thing, but on the broadcast can be a little bit confusing. I think there was some other random packages. Was there like
there was a Molly McCann one?
Yeah, it's like, is she going in the Hall of Fame? Like, what is happening?
For like Women's Appreciation Month or something like that, and they showed the graphic that had no Ronda Rousey on it, which was another funny thing.
Yeah. I mean, like,
they put Chris Cyborg on it of all things. No Ronda Rousey. What a world we live in.
Keep those in arena to keep the crowd hyped, but I think don't put those on the broadcast because people are going to get confused, and it kind of creates a weird vibe for everybody watching. But yeah, it was probably not the best London card, but we got,
is it worse than last year's? Last year's was brutal. That was Brady Leon, that Brady Leon, Jan Blachowicz, and Carlos Ulberg. Like that, like the fact you can't even remember that card. I don't know. It's this at least had talking points coming out of it.
Had a fight of the year contender on it.
Yeah, this one. Very true. Very, very true. That's a good point. This one, at least, even if the fights were duds, at least there's stories coming out of it. Like Leon getting choked out by Brady, and then Jan Blachowicz losing another very close decision. Like it's
sad.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah, I think if you have a look at the card, it's almost like you have more name value on it, right? Like, have a look at that.
Oh, quick work.
Thank you. But I mean, Nathaniel Wood was on this one, but yeah, I don't know. Both forgettable. I guess Brady destroying Edwards like that, is that more impressive though, and kind of shocking?
That one was weird because it was supposed to be JDM, and then they pulled JDM to fight for the title against Bilal, and so it just kind of felt like it was thrown together last minute. And Leon had been fighting so many grapplers like back to back to back to back. I wanted to see him fight JDM really bad. I think people kind of bummed out by it.
And that fight wasn't close. It was like bad news from the beginning, from the Brit. At least this one, you 100%. Could like, maybe you felt until the final bell that Lerone Murphy was going to close the night on a high for the UK until he didn't get his hand raised. But at least that was something to hang on to, as opposed to just watching Leon get mauled until he was eventually submitted.
While we're breaking down cards and talking about ratings of them. How do we feel about this one coming up this weekend? We got the Seattle card, the big return of Izzy. He's in a fun matchup against Joe Pyfer. We got some recognizable names here on the card. Grasso Barber's on here. Chase Hooper's on here. Even the Tybura, Casey O'Neill, she's back. Look at this. We got, Navajo Sterling. He's in there. We've got some fun names on this card. Mike, how do you feel about UFC Seattle?
I think Israel Adesanya being in the main event is enough for me. I mean, it's hard to ask this question to people in our position because, like, I'm being paid to watch this and would watch it regardless, even if it was my day off or something.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit sick in the head, but I'd like to think that even for the non-hardcore, Israel Adesanya still has some pull. Like, you see him on the poster, you see him on your Paramount Plus app, and that this is the fight this weekend. Like, I would hope that he still has enough to pull you in, and you don't need much more beyond that. I mean, people like Alexa Grasso, seemingly that's an important one for her. Macy Barber's wanted that rematch forever, and then the drop off is pretty steep. But Abdul Malik is an interesting prospect. Yeah, there's a couple things on there, but Izzy's obviously carrying the show, and this feels very much like a do or die moment for him. I mean, if you lose to Joe Pyfer to make it your fourth straight, I don't really know where you go from there.
Yeah, Eugene Behrman and the team going straight from London after Bulk and Bear put on an impressive win over there to corner Izzy. Jose, I got a few comments, people being like, how come we didn't get, any one-on-one interviews, kind of like promo packages of Izzy speaking or anything like that? Maybe on the London broadcast, kind of promoting it a little bit more. It does feel like there were a couple of little, there was like an animated thing that looked kind of cool. And then there was more just like your standard marketing stuff, but they're not really tapping into Izzy as much as they would usually for a return like this.
And even that anime thing was just shitty AI. Like, that looks it was AI so bad. It was so bad. I was like, this looks terrible. Like GFL, at least when they did their AI stuff, at least they stuck everyone in space rather than just like weird walking through the wall. I don't know. It wasn't the best, I think. I don't know. It's a good question because Izzy is a very marketable fighter. Like, just play his highlights. Like, Izzy is an awesome fighter to put a video package together, and Pyfer knocks fools out all the time. Like, this, if there's any fight that could hype up a fight, it's this one. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they got the bag and they don't have to sell pay-per-views or anything anymore. I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like Izzy's kind of like the marketable guy right now.
The promo is out announcing the fight is better than anything UFC has done since to build it.
Yeah.
It feels like Izzy kind of likes Pyfer, doesn't have anything really against him. I know Pyfer's had a few posts here and there, but it's almost like, Mike, I feel like for this one, I wonder what it's going to be like during media week, but it's almost like he's just kind of focused on his return. And I get a feeling from him, he's not really going to say much about the division, much about Pyfer. It's more about himself and kind of focusing on the fight. Is that the kind of Izzy you think we'll get, Mike?
Yes, and I don't know about you guys. It seems like he's trying to cut down his media pretty significantly ahead of this one too. Like, not doing much of the rounds. I'm sure we'll only do the stuff that is absolutely required, and then probably like something with our buddy Oscar Willis. But other than that, like, he seems very locked in. And again, what is there to say? Like, we would love to hear him actually say, like, this fight could define my career. If I lose, maybe I'm gonna have to retire. Like, we'd love that quote on the graphics and for him to say it, but like, doesn't really need to be said. It feels like it's pretty apparent here. If he loses this one, it's a very rough spot for him. So yeah, that's kind of the intrigue around this fight, and we'll see. The upside feels like it's constantly changing and growing for him though too, because like, I feel like if Hamzat beats Strickland, he is not bound to hang out in this division for long. I could see him going up to 205, and then if you get, Strickland off a loss, and then you look at this division right now, like, who's the person there that you're clearly throwing into the title fight? I mean, you could do it between like the two guys, but I'm just saying, like, Izzy on a good win, I would not rule him out for being considered for that spot. So like, the downside is enormous, but the upside of just what could open up, like, you got to win just so you can be there and in position if something pops up.
Yeah, and he's got a matchup, Jose, that's good for someone looking to bounce back. Like, this is really going to say a lot to us about what kind of Izzy we have, where he's at in his career. He's only 36 years old, but obviously, and he's looked, by the way, really good up until the time he loses. Like, in DDP, he came into really good shape, came into that fight in really good shape, just DDP was better. Imavov, it looked like he was doing really well until he got taken out by Imavov. So it'll be interesting to see where he's at. But off Mike Bond's point, like imagine, and of course, you know, Hamzat is likely to win, but imagine Sean Strickland somehow beats Hamzat. You could do that. Sean Strickland, Izzy rematch. Like, tell me the UFC doesn't just throw him straight in there if that's the case.
The Hamzat rematch before the Izzy rematch.
Yeah,
I guess it would depend on how Hamzat loses and all that stuff.
True.
Sean Strickland wins. God help us all.
Dude.
All the big fights are there for him.
And we were joking when we were in Vegas, like, oh, they should put another middleweight fight in the co-main event just in case something happens with Hamzat, because historically that could very well happen. And someone was like, oh, they should do Dricus versus Brendan Allen in the main as the co-main. I'm like, but if Hamzat comes out, we could get Dricus Sean 3, or we could get Brendan Allen Sean Strickland 2. It's just like everything's rematch.
Brendan Allen's got to get through Edmund Shabazian first.
I know. It's crazy. The division is nuts.
What is up, MMA Junkie Graphic? What is up with this bullshit? Who was smoking crack in the room when they were like, hey, and it's like Dana White's like, yeah, the kid came in last minute, beat RDR. We got something special for him. And this is what he gets. I mean, and the thing is, right, it's not like they don't have people for him to fight. Dude, like, there are people for him to fight. Like, you could have just given him DDP, for God's sake. DDP said he wanted that fight. Mike, how did we end up with this crap from Brendan Allen? And how do you sell this to Brendan Allen? Like, can you imagine having to be his manager and tell him, oh, hey, we've got a really exciting
imagine
matchup for
if
you.
they had the same manager.
Yeah.
Okay, so I my feelings on this.
Not even the main event, Mike. This isn't even the main event.
Okay, so that's point one though of, I guess, me explaining this fight. The main event is who? Bilal Muhammad, Brendan Allen's very good friend, who he's now training with and is out in Chicago with that team. So I'm sure the idea of aligning training camps and all that stuff was maybe intriguing for him. So that could be point one. Point two, he claims that Dricus went running, right? That's what he said on his Instagram story. He turned it down. So let's say Dricus isn't actually running, but they said he's not ready till September. Or this isn't the fight we want to do. Whatever. You got to look at something else. And I've been high on Brendan Allen for a very long time. Like I always say, even after the losses, I'm not selling my Brendan Allen stock. I think he can, fight for that title, maybe even win it in the right matchup. Like from seeing his attitude, he just wants to fight. Like he wants to be active. He doesn't care about the rankings and all that stuff. And he's a guy that I think knows the point I always say is like him going out there and finishing Edmund Shabazian in the first round or something, like the moment he kind of needs some buzz, that does much more for him than if he has a rematch with Nasruddin Imavov and wins a split decision or something. Like, even though maybe not Imavov because he's number one, but Baralho or like someone like that, so I think this is not a terrible career move for him. I think just stay busy, be ready. And again, if that situation happens where Hamzat wins and moves up, you look at the guy that's on the 4-fight winning streak or something like that, and he's in just as good a spot no matter who that win's coming off. So
you don't think if he goes out there and beats Imavov or Kaio that people would care more than Edmund? Like, people don't even. Edmund's not an easy fight either.
Wins like a Brendan Allen-ish lackluster split decision, boring fight, not much. Like a highlight would do more for him, in my opinion, even if it's against Edmund Shabazian.
That's the thing that Edmund is not. It's like, how do I was going to say something. It's like, basically it's like a tough matchup without the perks, Jose, right? Like Edmund's not going to go down easy. This could end up being a Brendan Allen win, but over Edmund, right? That's always also a possibility. And you're like,
yeah. And then even if say Edmund wins, like I feel like we've been high on Edmund for so long.
We have, yeah.
The story's there. And the precedent is there. Like when Petr Yan fought Marcus McGee in Abu Dhabi, everyone's like, Petr, why are you fighting Marcus McGee? You just beat Song and Figueiredo. Like, go fight someone in the top 5. And then he goes, no, I want to stay active and fight for the title. And then he fought for the title next, and I was champ.
So the same situation that I basically just described, even though he didn't even get the finish in that moment. So,
and there's a world like Mike said, Hamzat wins, goes up. Like Imavov Brendan Allen could just be a title fight if Brendan Allen wins, like a vacant title fight, or like. If Izzy wins, there's a world they throw him into a vacant title fight just because he has a big name. Like, I get it. It just kind of came out of left field.
What do we think they're going to do with Dricus then? Because I did think that was
Imavov, right? Is it Imavov?
It would make they're like the last two standing. It just I guess depends on if Imavov.
I had heard some chatter about maybe Gregory Rodriguez. What do we think about
Gregory Rodriguez versus DDP?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good, like, if the DDP, maybe that's a good one to get going again. It is a fun fight, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you think,
and that's clearly what the UFC is looking for, right? Like that will be a better fight no matter how it goes than Dricus and Brendan Allen, even though that fight is way more meaningful.
So it wouldn't be Kaya, it would be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, not reporting anything. If I had multiple sources, I would have reported it, but just some chatter, it seems like, and it makes me more inclined to believe that's where they're leaning after this Brendan Allen booking.
And he was dealing with an injury, right, Mike? So he was a little bit delayed, Dricus, on his return.
Seems like it, but I feel like he's been saying for a little bit he's ready to go.
Okay, interesting. Someone that's ready to go after a bit of a rough night in the office is Max Holloway. He spoke about how he would love a Conor McGregor rematch on his YouTube channel, MMA Fighting Graphic there. Talking about how Conor got one over me. And if he doesn't want to cut weight, I don't want to cut weight either. We could do it at any weight. And that weight would be welterweight. So Jose, Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor, a welterweight International Fight Week. What are we thinking?
I mean, I want to see Max fight Conor. But like, I don't know if Conor's coming back. I'm not like that's what this conversation leads to. Like, is Conor McGregor ever gonna fight again? I don't know, because IFW sounds great, but then you got a lot of champions that need to get booked too, like Islam coming back and all that. So just it sounds great. If they're gonna fight, that's the time to do it. Max clearly didn't take a lot of damage against Charles, and especially if he's fighting at 170, it's not like he has to cut a lot of weight. If Conor is 100% coming back in this hypothetical world, why not? Like, let's do it. If Max beats him, he's already a superstar. If Conor beats Max, then fuck. He's all of a sudden, he's like top 5. Like, Max is like one of the greatest fighters ever, and still currently, like, he lost to the BMF. Charles just might be the second best lightweight in the world. Like, Max's stock is still like the 1% of the UFC. Beating Max, Conor's obviously back. So yeah, why not? I hadn't really thought about it until Max started talking about it. But if anyone can ask for a fight, it's Max Holloway, and they should give it to him.
And Mike, I mean, the situation here is, Max is going to keep it on the feet. It will be a fun fight. Conor knows him. I mean, I feel like he has a lot of respect for Max. He's spoken about wanting to fight him in the past. Where does he rank for you as a potential opponent for Conor McGregor? Obviously, Michael Chandler, he's fighting on the White House. I don't know, maybe he picks up a win, gets back in there. Outside of that, Nate Diaz, right? He's at the top of our wish list, but he's like with MVP now, so no one really knows what his future holds. So where would Max Holloway rank for you as a potential opponent, or who else do you have there?
Yeah, this is interesting because we're operating under the assumption, right? Conor fights International Fight Week, July 11th. That would be the comeback. Like, it definitely won't be Michael Chandler then, right? Because he fights a month before. Like, you assume if they get something done with Conor for July, March, April, like, they're announcing it in the next month because they want 10 to 12 weeks to build the Conor return. So you're certainly not waiting till 4 weeks before to figure out his opponent, Michael Chandler. Even if it was best case scenario, 1-punch knockout for him in 10 seconds against Rufy, like, you still can't promote that. So, like, Max is obviously available, and I think that kind of makes sense for him in that regard. Like, yeah, I could see it. I don't love that fight at all for Conor. Like, that feels like,
in terms of a stylistic,
I mean, the Chandler fight, I feel like, was just so winnable for him, and none of these other fights feel winnable. And I guess it's the same thing with Nate Diaz, right? Like, he fights May 16th, so maybe you hold off till then, but even still, that's less than 2 months out. And, like, what, you think Nate Diaz, after making $10+ million, is going to want to turn around in 5.5 weeks or 6 weeks or something? Maybe, but, like, you're going to hinge the whole event off that hope. Like, so none of these just feel realistic.
Got to be healthy. Mike Perry, that's going to be
Max Holloway. He's reliable. He's there. I mean, as someone who is fond of Max Holloway, would love to see him get that payday and potentially erase that win off or that loss off his record. So, like, by all means. But if I'm Conor McGregor and his team, I'm like, I'd be hoping, but I don't know what the other thing is that's, like, not outside of Michael Chandler. Everything else feels a little bit like Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and
Like
Michael Chandler's
fights
up
that are
against it
realistic,
against
like-
Rufy. What's that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, fights that are realistic, right? Like Conor
Yeah.
McGregor versus King Green would feel like it's pretty evenly matched, but like that's never happening. So there's no point even talking about it.
yeah,
Jeremy
and
Stevens beats King Green. They're like, hey, we can
Bro.
pay this guy 20 and 20, and so we'll save some money. Let's just do that. You know what I mean?
and if Nate Diaz, like win or lose against Mike Perry, that third Conor fight is still great. Conor fights whoever IFW. He's got one fight left. Like, just fight that out and then go fight Nate Diaz on Netflix.
See, that's the problem too.
know.
This is the biggest hang up, right? We keep saying this one fight left, but that's
It's not
one
real
fight
anymore.
left if he fights on the current contract, which he claims is void and is heavily dependent on pay-per-view. So what is he going to fight for? Whatever the base purse is, no pay-per-view
No way.
included, and just fight for that in hopes of getting it down for one. No, if he is fighting in July, I assume it's coming with a 6-fight or 8-fight contract extension on top of it.
For sure.
And that's feels like it's almost impossible to get done when you're talking about Conor McGregor. So
The money would have to
Jose
be crazy.
skepticism off the top is very warranted.
Yeah, the money would have to be crazy, Mike. I think, Jose's like, I'm not sure if we see Conor back. I think one of the things outside of really health and stuff is really this contract negotiation. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I think he was making sort of around that 30 million plus area before when he was fighting. Maybe it was more with pay-per-view. I don't know. How much do you
Was
think?
making 30 million?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think any. I mean, Jose, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think any of his purses, as far as what we know and what
Yeah.
we've seen from John
Okay.
Nash and all that reporting in relation to the antitrust suit and stuff that comes out, I think it's, I want to say closer to 12 or 15, not including the Floyd.
Yeah.
Mayweather.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how much do you think, Mike, is realistic for the UFC to offer him? Obviously, he'll probably want a little bit more than that 30 million that they offered apparently John Jones for the Tom Aspinall
Yeah.
fight. Do you think roughly Conor just wants to kind of get the biggest payday out of anyone? Is that what he wants
For
to be
sure.
locked in?
For sure. I mean, clearly you see all the things, poking at comments about greed and all this stuff. Like, he clearly feels a certain way. So I don't know how the UFC figures this out, man. I mean, if you have it out there that you offered John Jones 30 million for the Tom Aspinall
100%.
fight, and even if you say that was with the support of Turkey al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabia and stuff, you do even have it out there that he was offered 15 million for the White House fight. So even if Conor said that's like the high, but I want double that or something, so give me the 30, like, is the UFC willing to do that over how many fights? I certainly can't imagine. If it was $1 over 30, I would feel like it's a win for him. Not saying in terms of his value, he deserves 100, or more, but talking about what we know the UFC will do and our expectations of their business practices and all that stuff. If you could pinch that 30 million out of them, like, I think you're kind of on your way. But anything below that, I don't know how open he is going to be to taking it. So
It's so funny. It's so funny because if he was out of the UFC, right, he'd be fighting Floyd again, Nate on Netflix, some bum in the main event somewhere, probably for way more money. Jose, wasn't it funny though in that interview that he did where he was bringing up Conor Benn and the $15 million he was getting paid? Like, he is just like what Mike said across all the figures, and is going, like, they're going into this negotiation wanting a pretty decent deal. I know, like, Alex Pereira got locked in for 8 fights, which is pretty crazy. They must have offered him something pretty big for that. They would have to offer Conor something crazy to lock in for 8 fights, knowing the amount of money he could make on the free market right now. Easier fights that he could have out there as well, just with frequency.
Just triple whatever he's making now that would be the only thing that would be realistic, to lock Conor McGregor in for 8 fights. Because how many times, like, say Conor does come back IFW, after that, how many times does he fight?
Exactly. It depends
Exactly.
how it looks, how it goes.
The UFC have to be willing. That's the problem with the UFC as well, right? Like, they have to be willing to set up a matchup to pay that amount. Like, they might sign you to it, but then they need to, have a justification to make that fight, put it together. They could keep it under contract, but then not really make the fight for a while.
Yeah. And it's a prison. Yeah, it's a prison sentence either way. Because, like, say, even if he came to the UFC and said, F the pay-per-view portion of my contract, I want to fight in July against whoever for the 2 million his base purse is, or whatever it says in that contract. Like, even then, if he gets it down to 1, it's going to drag out another year probably before they give him that fight. They might offer him something, Carlos Prates again for that last fight, or like one of these ones where it just is a super tough matchup, and then you go through the cycle all over again and more money. So like, yeah, it's really in a possible position. If he really wants out, like he's gonna, I guess, have to fight the contract for what it is, and even that feels like it's going to be another 2-year process.
Yeah, I think Luke Thomas broke it down well. It's like the amount of money they offer you over those 8 fights is kind of fugazi, because you still need to fight those 8 fights to get it. And I think a lot of fighters are like, oh, whoa, 8 fights. Like John Jones, probably when he signed that other last contract, was like, oh, whoa, that blah, blah, blah. But things change and you're stuck in this contract. And now it's just kind of like, and they're not giving you those fights. So it's like, they're not even paying you the money that you thought you were going to make.
How many times do you think Alex Pereira fights of the 8? Do you think how many?
I think they look at it and they go, if Alex Pereira wins, we'll pay him that money because it'll be worth it. And if he, loses, we'll find a way to sort of, after a while, keep him on the shelf if he's not worth the money on the contract, right? That's their kind of plan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wonder if he loses, he'll obviously want to fight again. He'll be right back in there. I'm just wondering, like, even if he wins and defends the heavyweight title a couple times and loses, like, he's 39. Do we get 8 more Alex Pereira fights, even in the best case scenario?
But how much does Alex Pereira make on the free what if this was like 2 fights left? Do you know what I mean?
We're never going to find out. So.
And the matchups that he could have had, that's what he's really paying for.
It'll be 45 before we find out. So
I think I bet the UFC would be afraid of him doing some crossover shit and making a bunch of money. Because Alexander Usyk has talked about fighting Alex Pereira.
Dana White literally specifically shut that down. Right?
Exactly. But like, because Usyk is it's silly.
Dude, you know what's crazy as well? Dana White, we'll finish it up in a sec, but Dana White's saying with Zuffa Boxing how he's refusing to do like these cross-promotional bouts. Like, good. Mike, Dustin Poirier is like, let's go and do a boxing match with Nate Diaz, right? That's fun. Why can't we do that? And they don't want $15 million, I'm sure, like Conor Ben, but they want a good amount of money to do it. We've got these names that, aren't kind of do anything like Dustin Poirier anyway. Like, could we not just throw him a couple of mil and put him on one of these cards? Like, what are we doing here, man? It's Zuffa Boxing. Zuffa is UFC.
I mean, it sounds easy in theory. I don't know what TKO's budget for Zuffa Boxing is. Like we say, in the overall grand scheme of TKO, like you said, chuck him a couple million. That's nothing for them. But what is that? That's like probably 12 cards for the Zuffa Boxing budget for what they're paying these guys, especially like the ones that Jaya Bataya isn't fighting on and stuff like that, but they're normal ones. So I just don't see that. It's very unfortunate though. Dustin is what we just talked about there, right? Like he's done and he's got 4 more fights left, and it's just like you're in an impossible situation. You come back and you try to fight them out, they're going to throw you to killers, and you're going to decline worse and worse and take more damage. So like it's an unescapable situation. But yeah, like I get why they want to try to do that, because they don't want to delegitimize them trying to make this like a serious boxing product. And
come on,
I don't know how to say this. You could throw this, pick the next Zuffa Boxing card. I probably couldn't name anyone on it. Don't know who's on it. No. Most of those fights, when they play out, would probably be better boxing matches than Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier if you stripped away their names and identities. So like you're going to pay all these guys these millions of dollars to have a one-off, and maybe it's like, not the best fight on the card. I don't know. Like I see all the reasons why they don't do it, but yes, I would love obviously all those guys to get that opportunity, but it doesn't surprise me. And selfishly too, like, taking Dustin outside of it, who we all like and would love to see, be able to do the things he wants to do in life. Like generally speaking, I'd like to see the MMA fighters stick to MMA and compete in the sport we want to see them in, please.
All right, quickly before you wrap up, Jose, I'll go with you first. Rate this RAF card, my friend. You're going to be helping out MMA fighting, obviously over there. Mike Heck's spoken about how you'll be given a hand before you go off on a couple of things in terms of content. But what do you reckon of this matchup? I feel like RAF, they've done a good job of capturing the market and getting some good headlines, getting good views. They get more views than a lot of these UFC fight nights. People are really excited about this Arman Tsarukyan rematch with Giorgio. Like you got Danis on there. He's always
look at like weird. The fact that like we're talking about like we all cover MMA. So Arman and Georgios and Colby Dillon obviously is like the draw power. But like if you're a wrestling fan, like having Kyle Dake, Kyle Snyder, Kennedy Blades, Wyatt Hendrickson, like Boba Fett, like these are unbelievable, like the best wrestlers you will ever see, all on one card. Like I don't care if you watch it or not, but if you are a wrestling fan, this is an unbelievable card. It just happens to have two MMA matches on the top, and I actually like this type of booking because you will tune in for the main, and then you will discover like, oh, Wyatt Hendrickson like might be the best heavyweight American wrestler right now. Like now that he beat Gable Stevenson or whatever, I think it was him, right? Yeah. So it's a sick card. I'm actually very interested in it. If you don't like wrestling, it seems very complicated because their scoring system, they don't really explain it, which I also kind of like. They just assume if you're watching, you know how to score wrestling. There's no teaching. So it's just, and then the pacing is just match. It's actually a very well put together product.
Mike, do you imagine that this Georgia Arman matchup has another violent finish? Or even do you imagine Dennis versus Covington ends up looking a bit rough?
Bro. We might have two brawls.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like there's the ingredients here. I think Arman and Giorgio will be better behaved because if it doesn't end like that, it's like, okay, what are we doing here? I think they'll be a little more professional and actually stick to the wrestling match and all that. Colby Covington, you spoke to him, so did I. Like nothing but complimentary towards Dylan Dennis, which was a little bit surprising, but I guess
I think he just wants him to show up. I get this feeling from Colby, like if I talk too much shit about him, he might not show up. So I just want to make sure he shows up, kind of. There's
plenty these guys could say about each other, so maybe the best thing to do is just not say anything about each other at all and approach it that way. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the ingredients are here. I echo everything Jose said. It seems like there's some smart people behind RAF doing things the right way. And
Eric Bischoff.
They need this though, like this UFC openness to if they close the store to them, they'd be hooped a little bit because, as Jose said, they're hoping that you're tuning in for Colby Covington and Dennis. At least the people that are watching this show, I assume, are the ones that they're after, and hope that you like someone else. But if you don't get those guys on there, it's I don't know what the appeal is. So
their first big, I think, mistake, and Dennis, you'll appreciate this, is RAF 8 in Philly, which is going to be Cejudo Merab, is the exact same day and time as the first day of WrestleMania, because Eric Bischoff hasn't learned not to go up against the WWE. So that's their first big mistake.
Interesting.
And
in Philadelphia too. That's a wrestling town.
And I don't think, and I don't know this for sure, some people have told me the UFC doesn't mind that their guys are doing it, but I don't think they want active fighters facing each other in RAF. So you can't have Cody versus O'Malley, because why would we give that to you when we can just make it ourselves type situation? I also think they don't want to run the risk of like Aljamain possibly beating Colby, because then you'd have a featherweight knocking off like a welterweight contender. So that I fully get. So everyone trying to fantasy match make these matchups against active UFC fighters, probably not going to happen. But we will get sick. We just talked about wanting to see crossover matches. RAF seems to want to do it. I'm all about it.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up. A big thank you to the degenerate MMA fan for becoming a member. He says the UFC should hook up Kevin Gastelum with Austin Lane's dietitian. Sorry. Very good. Prop King champ Jose, who just disappeared and disconnected his device. Before he disappears, Mike, you and him, it's going to be the big matchup. Yeah. What can you say? How can you preview this? This is going to be big. You versus him, prop quiz. The big rematch for the big finale, right?
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. I think last time, unideal circumstances, Jose was in like Abu Dhabi for the UFC fight. I was very early in the morning. It was my first time playing it. I now learned the game a little bit, built up my confidence on a nice 3-fight winning streak now. And I think Jose and I will be on a little more of an even playing field.
For sure.
Rematch. So looking forward to it. I took that loss personally. He forced me to up my game, come back, be better, and we'll see how it goes if I can prove better in the rematch and set up a highly anticipated prop quiz trilogy.
Listen,
Jose, what are these cheating allegations that I'm hearing on?
Oh, what's this? This is the first I've heard of this.
this is also the first I'm hearing of this. I generally have no idea.
Yeah. We'll clear the air tomorrow. We'll ask Luke if he's being extra.
I'm fine, whatever. Like people, I've been asking Luke to do a live. Like I'll do a live in the same room with people. I'm always down for it,
dude. They got to do these things live for the big finals, but I can't wait to see what happens.
Maybe we do that since Luke's in that area. If I get this win, we could do in-person trilogy at UFC 328.
I'm always down. I said from the beginning that Mike and Aaron Bronstetter were going to be my two biggest. Like, I think the three of us, if one of us was the champion, it was like, duh, because our brains just operate in that way. I beat Aaron. Aaron could still beat me in the future. And I said from the beginning, Mike is, I was glad I was facing Mike in the first round because we were both new. Now that Mike has all of this experience under his belt and we both know the strategy, it's going to be an interesting matchup. There's absolutely a world where Mike beats me, and it shouldn't surprise anyone. This is essentially Dustin and Max, but in prop quiz. The rematch came much later, and I might beat him again, but if we go up a third time, Mike might kick the shit out of me and force me to retire. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. Because we basically do prop quiz anyway when we're at the bar, so we might as well just do it at a live show.
There you go.
What about this, me Rocket? I hope Bonfire wins.
Cool.
Watch out, Jose. You got people coming for you. Also, someone's like, how's this the first time Jose has heard of this? I'm guessing.
I generally don't know. I generally have no idea.
Is this a thing that's out there? I didn't even know this is a thing. The guy, he's an honest guy. He doesn't cheat. Come on. I know. Someone's saying, look at Jose hyping it up as if he'll lose.
I am under I never like people hyping up fights where they're just like, my opponent sucks, because then you beat him. And then what'd you do? You just beat a bum. And then if he beats you, and then if he beats you, you just lost to a bum. Like, Mike is very good at having, like I'll say this. If this was stats, like numbers, it would not be competition. Mike would wipe the floor with me. Dates and names, I think no one can match me. So if there's like if there's a combination of those, this is essentially a 50-50 matchup. Like that's how I'll put it.
All right, well, there it is. Check it out on Main Card Minute, and there they are. Mike, Bohn, Jose Youngs, MMA Junkie, MMA Fighting. Check it all out. That is me, Dennis Scrowder. Please remember to subscribe, become a member. We'll catch you guys in another episode of Submission Ready Morning After Live. Have a great week, and thanks for joining us here today.